Hello, everybody. I just want you to know I never did this before.
We're here for you.
People. I want my screen to work now. This thing. Oh, there we go. I wanted to share some lessons from the pandemic. I've learned some things. I can share them with you because I'm like that about sharing and everything. I think the first thing I want to say is that, you know the way when, like, Karen sent out everything and everything? I'm one of the and more. But I spoke to my buddy down there who's like the professional. He said, you can be 10 years before you become a name, that you're just an and more for about 10 years, so. One of the things with the pandemic is that I'm now prepared for the next time. Because this time it didn't work out so well. Because the next time I'm going to get good arms. You know what I mean? You know at the beginning when you think, I'll get arms. You know, girls, you know how to do it? Yeah, I didn't do that this time. The other thing that I worked out about the pandemic is that there are two types of people in the world. So there are people who want to lick doorknobs in Wuhan. And then there are those people. So, and you just never know. Like, that's almost the worst thing is you actually really don't know. You go and see a friend and you don't know. And then you arrive and you find out, you know, it's really scary. Do you know that feeling? You know, you go to see someone, you haven't seen them for ages, and you're thinking, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've been to a lot of super spreader events this year. I even went to super spreader events before it was fashionable. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I've realized in the pandemic is that you realize that there is shit people don't want to buy at all. And it's really interesting because, so, you know, at the beginning of this because there was the before times, and then there was a pandemic. And then we were all going to die. Do you remember when we were all going to die? And you know, actually for 2 weeks, my husband and I, like, took it really, really seriously. And we thought, okay, we're going to die. So, you know, we're like in the house together all the time and everything. And so we were. It was really, you know, because actually at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember saying to my husband, I said, I bet there'll be loads of babies born. And my husband says, no, I don't think so. Yeah. So one of the things I learned was, when the pandemic happens, I remember this, I thought this was really funny actually, because I remember going to Trader Joe's and it was really funny. You know the way you go to shops and you saw like nothing? And then there's like this stuff, like loads of it. And you're thinking, what the fuck is that stuff? And then you go and it's fucking tofu, right? Every time. Like it's tofu and it's this like, in my local Trader Joe's, it was a thing called gluten-free halibut, which, do you know, and actually, I mean, halibut is great, right? But it's the gluten-free, you know, that's what ruins it, right? And then you're like, I can't do that shit, right? I can't do that shit. I will die, but I'm not eating gluten-free shit, right? You know what I mean? Even though maybe, you know, anyway, it's interesting. I just thought it was interesting, yeah? And something called chocolate hummus. Okay, I don't even know. I swear to God, I have no idea. I don't even know. I swear to God, I don't know what that is. I genuinely don't know what that is. But there were shitloads of it in Trader Joe's. Like, it was everywhere. You know, you could feed family for years with that shit, right? Anyway, so that is, and by the way, this proves something that I felt very passionately since I lived in Italy many, many years ago. Pineapple pizza. Guess what? No one wants that shit in a pandemic. And that's the thing about a pandemic. It really does divide the boys and the girls from the boys and the girls, or the other 59 sexes or whatever. Here's the other shit that's left there behind, is any kind of pizza with any kind of crust other than the fucking crust you're meant to have. So this is broccoli crust pizza that's left behind in Trader Joe's. That shit's not good. No one wants that. They're almost happy to go home with an empty cart and have nothing for the kids to eat. The kids are like standing there at the door going, what the shit are we eating tonight? But we're not having broccoli frickin' pizza, right? Which, fair enough, you know? The other thing that I learned really early on, actually, you know what? I didn't learn this early on at all, actually. No, I've been learning this, but I'm still trying to, you know what I mean? Because I think it's been traumatic for us. But the next time, okay, so the next time there's a pandemic, I'm going to be better at this, right? But here's the thing that I'm trying to learn, or maybe I could teach you or something, like, because I'm wise now. So just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean you eat ice cream for dinner, like, for a year. Now, I think that my husband and I might have had ice cream for dinner for a few months. Do you know, because it's a pandemic, right? There's all this apocalypse out there, and you're thinking we're going to die anyway, right? And, you know, and it's all just a bit sad and everything. So I think the next time, right? The other thing is drink, right? So I would say now I robustly embraced the idea of trying to kill the virus with alcohol. And doing that kind of, you know, do you know that kind of marinating thing? You know, just kind of keep those alcohol levels up kind of high. So you're going to probably ward off, you know, that kind of way. Just sharing that, just sharing that. Because I'm just thinking maybe, you know, day drinking. Like every day. You know? Whatever, you know? Whatever gets you. Here's another thing I learned, and I can share this with you because I just think, you know, I think this is the thing that actually we should do during a pandemic. People should share things they've learned and that could help other people. So I learned that it is a lot easier to eat sourdough bread than it is to make it. So, and just for nothing, like I'm just giving this away for free here, just so you know. So, buy the bread, yeah? At the very beginning of the pandemic, a very dear friend of ours, who's kind of cool, you know, and he comes over and he's like, Ben, you know, Ben. You know, he's brought up in Hawaii, you know. Everyone knows somebody like that. I kind of hate him, you know. But, so he comes over and he brings this sourdough starter. I'm actually a bit of a cook, by the way. Katie has eaten my food, right? So, I'm a bit of a cook, yeah. So, he brings over this thing, which looks like, let's be honest, it looks like ejaculate in a jar. I'm going to go there. It's meant to be a comedy night, all right? He brings it over. Am I right about that? I'm right. I'm going there, right? So it comes over, and I'm like, he's very cool and everything. And I'm thinking, and actually, because I'm actually genuinely interested in cooking, like super interested in cooking, I'd prefer to cook more than like just nearly do whatever, yeah. So I'm looking at this ejaculate in a jar, and I'm thinking, you know, and then he starts telling me how to make the sourdough bread. Put your hands up if you've done this shit. Have you made the sourdough bread? Tell the truth now. Come on now. Oh, we've got one. Yeah, it takes 3 days. The second day of the 3-day process, you don't have a life. It's worse than having a baby. Am I right? Yeah. So these are some actual pictures. So we should learn, because there was another pandemic. There was a bubonic plague, by the way. And after the bubonic, I've got some photographs of people who survived the bubonic plague. And you know something? Fashion didn't do well either, by the way, during this period, right? Look at this unhappy lady. Look at this unhappy lady. You know, like seriously. And like, look at this little outfit she's put together here. Look at that, and the little handbag, you know, just to try to, do you know what that is? That's an accent piece. You have that accent piece to take attention away from, you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? You're hoping people will walk in and say, look at the lovely handbag you got there. Yeah, look at the handbag. And the other thing that people did, like during and after the bubonic plague, was started to wear their underwear in the house, like all the time. So this lovely girl here, you know, she's wearing, and she should have been, you see, if people only studied history, they'd have known that this shit would happen to us, right? Instead of that, here's what's happened, right? So it's the rise of the leisure pant, right? So the rise of the leisure pant, and just to be honest, right? Right. Here's what's going on here, right? Here is what's going on here, right? And there are people here, smart people with money, who have elasticated waists there, and they're pretending not to have elasticated waists. I'm honest enough to stand here with my elasticated pants on and say that. It's about courage, you know. In the end, it's all about courage, you know. And then there's the women there who know that they do not have an underwire on their boobs, and they actually need an underwire on their bra, and they've not been doing that. And you know something? Stop it. Soon. Just stop it really soon, because your boobs look weird. Just that's all. So the one thing that I think is kind of funny, you know, is one of the things that's happened with the pandemic is, do you know before the pandemic, and you'd be like at a party and something, and you'd meet somebody who's like a prepper, right? Like I, by the way, did not know what a prepper was before the pandemic, but I know what a prepper is now. And I can't, in a way, I was kind of always a prepper, but I didn't even know it. Do you know that kind of way? So, you know what like, please don't tell me I need to explain what a prepper is, right? So a prepper is someone who thinks that the apocalypse is about to happen. And guess what? Then it turns out that there's a pandemic. So I have always operated, my husband and I don't have children, but I've always operated in a way thinking that I have 10 children. I've always had that. If you come to my house, there's never a shortage of food. People who've eaten in my house know this. There is food for about 8 people, always. 8 or 10, right? Every meal is made for around 8 or 10 people. So when the great toilet roll problem happened, which I believe Americans don't think is called toilet roll, they call it, what? Paper? Oh, because Americans can't call things the names that they should be called. So yeah, so it's called toilet roll because we want to be very specific. I had enough toilet roll for this century and the next. So one of the other things I learned was it's very hard to teach old dogs new tricks, right? So Katie will get this, right? The rest of you have no idea, right? But so I'm from Ireland, right? In Ireland, when you grow up in Ireland, there are no drugs in the house, right? Obviously, there's an incredible amount of alcohol, but there are no drugs, right? As in, there's no, like, literally, there's no anodyne, right? There is nothing. We don't have drugs in the house. We have this. Katie knows what this is, and the rest of you don't, right? This, I did it for you, just for you, because the 3 of us get this joke, right? So Lemsip is a thing you have, and it's for a cold, and I don't know, there's some kind of thing in it. You put boiling water in it, you drink it. She thinks it's funny. And I made her laugh, right? That's all that there is in the house. There are no drugs. But you know what? I am one of those people. I came to America. I'm here legally. I have a visa. And I'm learning your ways. So this is what I bought. Straight off the mat. I bought all that stuff, including I got the hydroxychloroquine, right? But I got all the other stuff because I've got a friend, you know, friends were telling me what to buy, people who know things. I bought all this stuff, but I have to say, just to show respect for the fact that I'm still Irish and I remember my roots, we haven't touched them. I did open that box of that zinc stuff, but it hasn't been touched. These are unmolested in our house. If anyone needs any stuff, come over to me, right? And this is apropos of nothing, but I just think if you're here to give advice, give it. You can freeze milk. I know that now. You do know that, right? And I just think, you know what, I should charge for this, by the way. So you can freeze milk, and it's really good because who wants to be out of milk, right? And then what do you do when there's no entertainment, right? Which is amazing to me. I had that revelation of, I don't know, a few months ago. I remember saying it to somebody. It was a Saturday night, and I was thinking, can you believe, and by the way, I'm going to start crying now, that there wasn't, like, no theatre, no live music, no comedy, nothing. In the whole world, the whole frickin' world. New York in darkness, you know? Paris, Rome, London for, right? I'm not going to use bad language because I'm better than that. I'm not actually, but someone's taping this. So in the absence of entertainment, what are you going to do, you know? So one of the things we did is this. You start taking photographs of your cats, right? So I have 345,000 more photographs in this collection. I just brought a few tonight. That's Top Cat, by the way. Top Cat and Scaredy Cat. Just so you know, there's 2 cats. And by the way, if you're ever going to get a cat, get 2. Just saying that. Just going to say that. Don't ever get 1 cat, get 2. Why not? The same amount of trouble, right? Other advice I would give to you, and I think this is one of those things where it's just a visual, and I don't have to say anything, is zoom. Right? And that's, you know, okay. Then the other thing I want to say, and this is kind of like because I actually think I became kind of like sort of an academic during this, and I realized that there are more gobshites in the world than any previous highest estimate, right? Now, some Americans don't know what a gobshite is, and so a gobshite. And you know what? You know what's easier for me than to actually give you the definition of a gobshite? Is to just give you the definition of a gobshite. So, and during this, as I said, during the pandemic, you realize that they were everywhere. These gobshites are everywhere. Just everywhere. And I'm going to pause here on this particular gobshite for just a moment, because this is, as some of you know, this is Barbara Ferrer. And I just think it's amazing, and I just love the story about Barbara Ferrer. Barbara Ferrer, for those of you who are from out of town, Katie. Barbara Ferrer is the head of public health here in LA County. Barbara Ferrer has a doctorate in social justice. And Barbara Ferrer earns just $50,000 a month. And you know what is amazing to me is that they couldn't find a doctor to do that job at $50,000 a month, but they did find a social justice warrior. Good to know. And then there's this gobshite. Now, why some of you might have a problem with this gobshite, my problem with this gobshite is not the obvious problem. My problem with this gobshite is that this gobshite was the head of public health in Pennsylvania, and when Pennsylvania forced all of the people with COVID back into the nursing homes, this gobshite took her own mother out. Her own mother out. Look at me being so something. Now, this is gobshite television, and I don't know if any of you else have noticed this, so I watch a lot of television, so you don't have to, and then I can talk fluently about it. So all of the TV shows now have idiocy things like this in them, right? And I just threw that in there for nothing. But I think it's important to note that the gobshites aren't all celebrities. There are gobshites among us, just everywhere. So this kind of gobshite, right? That kind of gobshite, right? This gobshite. This gobshite. And I don't know if you've noticed, so can I just, and then there's assholes, right? So, there's this asshole, then there's this asshole, this asshole, and then there's this total asshole, and then there's this what's it called? A lying dog face, pony face dog face. Who does this? Who's like somewhere, and then they need to sneeze, and they go. Those people are everywhere. Advice for surviving the pandemic. And this is very serious now, because people do need stuff to help them survive the pandemic. Here's my advice, and I'm deadly serious. So you should watch a show called 90 Day Fiancé. So I swear to you, by the way, I promise you on my mother's memory, and my mother is dead, right? This is true. If you need to get away from the pandemic, this is the actual cure. Called 90 Day Fiancé. My buddy, Ali, put me onto this, and I'm going to show you some stills from 90 Day Fiancé, and I'm going to ask you a question because you're very smart. The premise of 90 Day Fiancé is that someone from a foreign country, what Trump would have called a shithole country, comes to America to marry an American, and they have 90 days in which to get the thing together, right? And it's a reality TV show. As I said, it's magnificent. The question I have for you is I'm going to ask you to look at these pictures and work out who is the American. Right? Who is the American here? Right. This, by the way, guy with the no neck is from San Diego. I just adore him. In this case, by the way, I'm going to say it just to make... Who do you think the American is? He's the girl. And another one there, yeah. The other thing I would say to you is, another thing not to do, okay, is don't watch House Hunters if you live in California. If you live in California, don't watch House Hunters during the pandemic. Because life is hard enough. But the last thing you need to watch is a 12-year-old with her boyfriend who are about to get married, living in frickin' Alabama, meeting the real estate agent, where the real estate agent says, how much do you want to spend? And they're saying, 180,000. And then, like, what do you need in the house? Well, we need a formal dining room. We'd like an enclosed yard. I need an island in the kitchen, at least 4 bedrooms. And they get the house for 140. So, yeah, don't watch that. The other advice I'd give to you, because I'm just very wise now, do you know what I mean? That kind of way, is the dishwasher has become very... Has anyone else had a problem with the dishwasher in their lives over the last year? And you know, the thing with the dishwasher is, and I'm not judging anyone, right? Not judging anyone at all, because I'm not that kind of person. So, there are people, let's just say, who have a very particular way of stacking a dishwasher, right? And then there are other people who are like, whatever, right? Now, you can just guess which one I am, but I'm not saying, right? But I think the distinction, the only part of the distinction that matters, is that if one of those parties would be to lecture the other party on the benefits of the way they stack the dishwasher. I just think it's, I'm just going to leave that there, just that's all. And then the very last thing I want to say, this is pretty much the last thing I want to say is, how do we survive? This is my favorite person from the whole pandemic. This is a real person. This lady, she got over the pandemic, she got the COVID, 105, she's rocking on, and she says, say your prayers, don't eat fast food, and eat your gin-soaked raisins. Can I just say, sorry, are there people here who are doing the gin-soaked raisins? Just throwing that out there. No judgment at all. I've never heard of it, by the way. My name is Anne McElhinney. My husband and I are doing a movie called My Son Hunter. You can go to mysonhunter.com and you need to give what you can. We are crowdfunding. The film will be available for free. And he is our next door neighbor living on the Venice canals. There's the poster. And then if you think we're interesting, please listen to our podcast. It comes out once a week. Anne and Phelan, Scoop. And